we tend to forget that there was life before all of this.
Right. It's true.
And we were functioning fine.
Right.
These were supposed to be added tools to help us excel into our lives.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these tools have caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, because anything that's overused is not good.
Right.
You know, you could drink too much water and that could be bad for you.
Right. Yeah. What up? It's Dramos, and this is the recap. Of course, as I do each and every week, breaking down some of the biggest headlines from this last week, and helping me break down some of those stories, a very special guest hopping on in just a little bit. He is an incredible singer-songwriter, goes by the name of Austin Brown, so he'll be joining us in a few minutes. But first, man, as per usual, let's get to the BS from this last week. Okay, so quick update on a story that I recently covered, and that was the murder of 18-year-old Mona Rodriguez, who was shot and killed by a school safety officer as she sat in the passenger seat of a car that was driving away from an alleged altercation. Now, I am happy to tell y'all that the officer has officially been charged with murder. Yes, the school safety officer responsible for shooting and killing Mona Rodriguez has officially been charged. Now, this is great news, but of course, this is only the first step. I mean, as we all know, being charged and then being convicted are two very different things. And we need for this man to be made an example of and to actually be convicted. And listen, I'm sorry if I'm maybe sounding a bit pessimistic, but in this country, the celebrations, they never seem to last very long because sadly, we live in an incredibly broken country who systematically, the court systems, the police, everyone involved, government officials are incredibly corrupt and biased. Now, it's perfectly on display with another big story from this last week. And that was the trial for Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old who shot and killed two people during protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, aside from the disgusting fact that this kid, who is in fact a murderer, was made out to be a hero by the right and was having his bail paid, and people were crowdsourcing money for this kid as if he was some sort of martyr, things have actually, and I'll say unsurprisingly, because we live in America, have actually taken an even more gross term as the judge in this case, who honestly looks like a doppelganger to Mitch McConnell, and of course has a face that only a mother could love, gave a speech declaring that he did not want the people shot in this case, as the people that Kyle Rittenhouse unloaded his gun on and killed, the two people. The judge said he does not want them labeled as victims in his courtroom. He does not want the attorneys to call them victims in his courtroom. But, surprise, surprise, shocking, he is okay with them being labeled as rioters and being labeled as looters. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to America. And that's America spelled with 3 Ks, just in case you're wondering. Now, the sad thing about this is, and I'm not shocked. I doubt any of you at home are shocked about this. But the sad thing is, America is not the land of the free. It's actually the land where racist white people have zero shame in expressing their bias, and in fact, are even rewarded by being placed in positions of power and essentially determining the livelihood of people in this country by sitting up there in a robe as a judge. God bless America. Gotta love it, right? Now, that was heavy, I know. And it's like Halloween time. It's the holidays. I know we want to lighten things up a little bit. So, of course, we'll do that with our guest this week. And we'll even touch on some Halloween-related topics. Now, my guest this week helped me break down some of those other headlines. He is a singer, songwriter, and producer whose album, Heart Over Mind, is available everywhere right now. Austin Brown, how we feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Listen, I'm excited to have you on the show and to get into everything that you're working on. But first, I want to kind of run a few current events by you, if that's cool with you, and kind of get your take on them.
Of course, man. Of course.
So, I mean, let's first and foremost, let's start with Facebook, right? Because it kind of rules everything around us these days, right? And they're rebranding now to the name Meta. amidst all this bad press that they're getting, and Mark Zuckerberg's talking about wanting to create this quote unquote metaverse where things happen in like this weird digital space of like people never basically have to leave the couch and we're just all like virtually connected like some weird sci-fi movie. I mean, what are your thoughts overall about Facebook and all that you've been seeing? And I mean, you know, your own personal firsthand experience when it comes to social media, I guess the dark side of it.
You know, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. And I think that's like majority of the public.
Sure.
There's a part where, you know, you have to utilize it because it's a part of our job, and updating people on our lives every day is how you're able to get more work and survive. So it's just synergy. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's like a highlight reel of all the stuff that's happening. So you're not necessarily seeing the realness of what's really going on.
Right.
And when it comes to Facebook and when it comes to curating what you want someone to see to allow them to stay more on the page, and then, you know, putting bad energy into your feed just to rile you up, I've never been a fan of that.
Right.
Because for obvious reasons, it's f***ed up.
Right.
You know?
Of course.
You know? So,
yeah, I mean, and you're referencing like this idea, for anybody that's not super following, because I think that's a great point. The idea that Facebook was like algorithmically pushing these very like hot button political conspiracy theories and things like that
on Facebook.
Right, exactly. To get you arguing in the comments and to get you just staying there with people, basically. So, and that's a great point. I want to make sure people understand that what you're speaking of.
Yeah, man, it's messed up. So, you know, that's a part of it that I'll never like. And to me, this new meta universe is to me going deeper into it. I mean, for what it feels like, it's just a way to disconnect you from what's outside. It's you got to be careful. I think there's a narrative that's being pushed right now that wants to force us to go into this other realm, and it's taking us away from the human experience.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we have to have a balance, but at the same time, it's very important to check into who you are personally and to unplug and to do things that take you outside of that world.
Right. Yeah, and it's weird that like Mark Zuckerberg, at one point his story was like an inspirational one. Like, here's some college dropout who him and his friends started some like platform that they became rich off of or whatever, right? Like found like the American dream, quote unquote, right? And now it's like, wow, he might actually be like one of these evil geniuses that we see in like movies. You know what I mean? Like the way that he's really trying to manipulate the world, it feels like, and also just not giving a damn about the damage that's happening. You know, it's really weird.
It's strange. You know, whenever you come to wealth is one thing.
Yeah.
Extreme wealth is another. And then you mix competition with it.
Sure.
People will do anything to be on top. There's always, they say there's levels to it. And, you know, in his realm of wealth and control, I don't feel that it's necessary for anyone to have that much of a grasp on what access people. I've never even thought it was right that the government has so much access to people.
Yeah.
So when there's, I forget how many billion people were on Facebook, so I don't want to misquote it and sound ignorant.
Sure.
But I know a good chunk of the world was at one time on Facebook. And so if you are trying to sustain your viability, you're trying to sustain your wealth, and you're trying to sustain your impact in your stronghold, you will do anything and everything to keep that. That's to me the part that's genius, because you're not that's evil.
Right.
It's genius and it's evil at the same time, because you're not using it for positivity. You're using it to kind of keep the stronghold on, and you're using it to continue to manipulate.
Yeah.
So with a lot of power comes a lot of responsibility. And I think he's already definitely got his hand caught in the cookie jar far too many times.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. I personally haven't been on Facebook in a long time. I have a Facebook, but I'm on Instagram. So it's just like,
same thing essentially.
It's the same thing. So it's a dicey situation.
Right. And even like when Facebook went down for that day, right? Like where Instagram was down, Facebook was down, and WhatsApp, like that, the havoc that it reached, because even like for the Latin community, WhatsApp is such a huge thing in like South America and Central America. That's the way people communicate with their family back home and things, you know? And it's crazy that I think that it's kind of like we've secretly been snuck like this pill, you know what I mean? Without realizing how much power over our lives and like our regular everyday life, I should say, we've given to like these social media platforms, you know, because of the ease of using them, you know, even simple things like a lot of passwords I used to have were like Facebook login, you know what I'm saying? Make it super easy for myself, you know? And then even now with connecting with people, doing research, I find myself like, damn, I really do use Instagram a lot. And it was like a bit of a pain in the ass that day that it was down. And it's scary to think that, wow, even me being aware of kind of the slippery slope that social media is, I still am getting sucked into like giving it so much power in my life almost, you know?
Yeah. We tend to, I totally understand where you're coming from, man.
Yeah.
We tend to forget that there was life before all of this.
Right. It's true.
And we were functioning fine.
Right.
These were supposed to be added tools to help us excel into our lives.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these tools have caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, because anything that's overused is not good.
Right.
You know, you could drink too much water and that could be bad for you.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point.
So imagine, you know, consuming what we consume on a daily basis. And I think I was listening to something that Anderson Cooper said. And this is Anderson Cooper talking. He says he doesn't go on Instagram anymore because it makes him feel shitty about his life. That's Anderson Cooper.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know, so with all these tools, I think we have to be careful. We got to be careful on how we take in information, on what we're putting out there, and understand why you're using it. If you're using it for something to push positivity out there, cool. If you're using it for something for control or for manipulation or for anything that is not energetically correct, it's going to be a boomerang effect and it's going to come back on you. And I think that happened with Mark Zuckerberg, and he's trying desperately not to see his entire empire break away in fragments, because it won't just come down. He has too much control and power. But what it will do is slowly break away in fragments till it properly dissolves. Right.
Yeah, and then you start really seeing the signs of a desperate person who's ultimately scared of losing their power, right? That's like the what we're seeing in politicians. We're seeing it all over the place, where people really are doing whatever it takes just to retain power in this country, in this world. It's scary, man. It's a very scary kind of time to be living in, for sure.
Yeah, it makes the human experience, you know, very, very different.
Yeah.
Because you have to make sure that your core is centered. You have to make sure that you're spiritually aligned.
Yep.
So that these other influences don't knock you off kilter or off track. Because if you're not strong, it could really take you down. And it doesn't mean you have to be strong as an individual. No, it just means that you have to spiritually try to be as aligned as you can.
Right.
Because you're being fed stale information consistently.
Right.
That only feeds those quick sensors in your brain that want to be quickly satisfied, no matter if it's quick buck, you know, quick sex, quick food.
Right.
That's going to whet the appetite to go down a path that's pretty much not that beneficial for your longevity. So we got to really, really stay connected the best way we can and hold each other accountable.
Yeah, and that's very, very well said. So let's kind of change gears completely to something a little bit more lighthearted, right? Something a little more fun, because it is the Halloween season. So first and foremost, are you do you have a big sweet tooth? Are you big on candy, goods? Like what's your thing? What's your poison?
You know what? My poison are vegan chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
I'm not a crazy candy person, but chocolate chip cookies, brownies, anything like that, and that's vegan, since I'm a vegan. I like go down the rabbit hole with it.
Yeah, and it's easy to kind of also convince yourself like, well, it's probably not that bad for me because it's vegan, right? Like, you know, I could have a couple extra cookies, right?
Yeah, we tell ourselves that, but it's all the same stuff.
Right. Well, listen, there was like this list that came out of like, they're calling it the official top 10 most popular Halloween candies, and it was by takeout. I'm not sure how they quantified this, whether it was sales or whatever the case was, but I want to give you the top 5 and kind of see if you have any issues with this top 5 that they're listing.
Okay.
All right. So coming in at number 5, you had Snickers, which is a classic.
Love Snickers.
Right. Great candy right there. Number 4, Starburst. Number 3, and this is where I kind of have an issue. Skittles is number 3 on their list. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Nah, I used to love Skittles. I used to love Skittles and Starburst, but now my teeth can't handle all that.
Yeah, you feel it out. I bet it's a part of getting older. It don't hit the same.
Really it don't hit the same.
Yeah. It's a fact. And then number 2 was Twix, and then number 1 was Reese's Cups. Was number 1 on this list.
Really?
Yeah. And what's crazy, I put this to like my Instagram, and people were going crazy talking about Reese's Cups were like their favorite candy, which is a shocker to me because it's nowhere near like even probably my top 10.
It's not even in my top 20.
Wow. Okay. So you're going even more bold with that. Okay.
Nah. I've never been a Reese's Pieces fan. Twix, deadly. Anything like with chocolate in it. Twix, Snickers. Yeah. You know, I used to love Starburst, but by the time I turned like 14, 15, I think I was over Starburst.
Yeah. It's, you know, the problem with Starburst, and they probably changed it now, was like I didn't like all the extra flavors. I wanted the red, I wanted the pink, and that's all I cared about when it came to the Starburst.
Yeah, no. With me, it was the orange. Yeah.
Orange. You know, orange is a sneaky one. That is a sneaky good flavor of Starburst. I'll give you that.
Orange is a good one, right?
It is. Well, listen, man, I want to also talk, obviously, about all that you have going on musically and you as an artist. And I want to start here because your family lineage is just crazy. I mean, you are the late, great, you're the nephew of the late, great Michael Jackson. I mean, how is that growing up like in this orbit of just greatness like that?
Wow. Well, first, I guess being my mother's son, my mom's Rebe, my father, Nathaniel Brown, they rooted me first and foremost, me and my sisters. And my mom being an artist herself, she always did a good job at making sure that we knew the difference between her job and the difference between family life. Sure. And so seeing the creativity of my relatives and everything that they were able to do was inspiring growing up, seeing people dedicated to their craft and how hard they worked at their craft and getting better at their craft and the ups and downs that you go with it and the perseverance that it really took to get to where they went. And that was probably the best example that I saw growing up in the situation that I grew up in. Yeah.
I mean, what is it weird though to want to, because your mom is also an artist, if I'm not mistaken, as well. You know, so is it weird to want to go down that route and just knowing the pressure that's probably going to come along with people understanding that you're connected to, you know, arguably the greatest musician of all time and one of the most talented families we've ever seen?
You know, when you do something for yourself and because you love it, you don't really think about that. At the end of the day, I had to be good and put in my 10,000 hours, probably at 100,000 now,
right?
for what it is that, you know, I do. You know, I started very young playing and I started very, very young, you know, producing and arranging. So, yeah, you could look at it that way. But at the same time, when you love something, you just try your best to just be great and do a good job. And I also have a story. You know, I grew up in a different time. I grew up seeing a lot of different things. I mean, that was my family's dynamic, but that wasn't necessarily my dynamic growing up. You know, my father grinded. You know, my parents grind. My parents became missionaries when they were 18 and 19 to move to Kentucky. Wow. It was my mom's family when they went off and were the Jackson 5. She was already moved out and gone. So my family was kind of paralleled from that, and so. You end up just, you know, I think I have my story is interesting because I was behind the gates and outside of the gates at the same time. Sure. So, you know, it was, you don't really look at it that way. You just work hard and you just keep on going. And, you know, where I am thankful for being able to watch my uncle and watch my aunts and my uncles work is that they were always dedicated to their craft. Sure. So that right there is what was the most inspiring part. Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. And, you know, one thing I feel like doesn't get kind of talked about enough is, and I don't know what I was watching or an interview I was hearing, but they were basically talking about like true crime cases, right? And this obsession that we have with like true crime, right? And that nobody thinks about the pain that it might bring up for the family of the people that they're discussing, right? Like whether let's say the victims of those families, like nobody kind of ever takes that in consideration of like, while we're kind of sitting here binge watching and indulging in like these different cases we find interesting, like that person's mother, brother, sister, you know, husband, wife
has to relive that moment on like a national kind of stage again. You know what I mean? And I feel like something that doesn't get talked about enough. I went to high school with Whitney Houston's nephew, and I remember just how hard it was sometimes for him with like kids in school. You know what I mean? Like when she was in the news and things like that. And for you, I mean, how was it kind of growing up with like your family being something that was always a topic of conversation, you know, and so many different like rumors that are made up and things like that. Like how difficult was it for you as a kid to kind of have to deal with that life as well?
Elementary school at times, that was a tough time. But I ended up moving out of state for my high school years. And to tell you the truth, I didn't tell anybody. So I didn't get bothered.
Yeah.
So no one knew, and wasn't a problem for me.
Right. But but even like internally for you, was that ever something it was just kind of like, damn, like, because you can't get away from it, unfortunately. Like I can only imagine if my family's business was put out there in public. You know what I'm saying? Like how uncomfortable that would be for me to even think about.
It was a quick understanding very early on that my family was in a different position. So you kind of, it wasn't ever any other way. It was always like that from when I came along and on.
Yeah.
So I never really, when things got heavy and tough, of course you take it to heart because you don't want to see people who you love and care about going through it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's finding your core and your center and your solace in it and knowing that things pass, times pass, and just to stay level and steady through it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's really interesting how the media dehumanizes people so quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really easy for us as human beings to look at a TMZ story, look at whatever, and you don't view these people as like, you know, actual people with real emotions and families and different things like that. You know, it's definitely like this kind of strange culture that like I feel like gossip media has sort of created, you know?
Yeah. Gossip media, it comes with it, right? So you have to put it in its proper perspective.
Sure.
And not allow that to run your emotions because it's synthetic. It's not real.
Yeah.
So if you're able to detach a little bit or all the way and see it for what it is and see it for the main goal that gossip media does, which is try to get viewership and users to increase their numbers.
Right.
Then you can kind of have more of a center with it and see it for what it is and hopefully not allow it to affect your psyche because really what's happening, people are trying to push pressure points and bring up a certain emotion to create more of a reaction.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's super true. And definitely a very, mature way to think about it. I mean, you could definitely tell, you know, you were brought up with a level of grounding for sure from your folks. I mean, let's talk about, you know, your music, obviously, you know, because you are your own person at the end of the day and you're doing a lot of incredible things. So, I mean, tell me about Heart Over Mind. I mean, just the concept of it and just kind of putting this project together.
You know, Heart Over Mind, I actually did it in this room and it was just, it's just a piano project. You know, I've been playing piano since I was 7 years old. And I was always inspired by musicians like Duke Ellington, Bill Evans, John Coltrane. Miles Davis is my favorite musician. And I had went through a very tough situation with a heartbreak end of last year. And I just had a really heavy feeling. And some of these arrangements had kind of been in my head for a while. And then the others came on the spot and I made a piano project and it ended up being Heart Over Mind. And it just kind of took on its own life, its own theme, and people started sharing it. And it's more of a meditation, you know, when you're going through a tough time, when you're going through a heavy moment, put it on. When you're on a drive, if you're on a trip, or if you're having a dinner party, put it on and just breathe through it.
Right.
Those are the heavy moments of life, you know, you just breathe through those moments. And
I love that because what's interesting is you have other projects and they have vocals and other things like that, right? But this is a departure from that. And it's actually interesting to hear you say that, like, putting together the arrangements of it were like therapeutic, because generally speaking, when we talk to musicians, we hear, writing the lyrics and getting those words out there, like, was what was therapeutic for them. So, I mean, kind of, what was why do you think for you, it was more so about creating something like instrumental and the arrangement that was actually going to be more therapeutic than actually writing words and things like that?
That was because whenever I'm going through a tough situation, I guess this has been since I was a kid, I'll come here. Something happens and I could just let it out. Sometimes when you can't necessarily speak for yourself,
right?
This really does it for you. And this is a vibration. These are chakras. This is all of it. And when you don't have the words to say, you just play through it sometimes.
Yeah, it's fun. It almost seems like it actually you might be even more present than you would have been if you were just writing words, right? Because it's like you're just lost in the moment of whatever is kind of happening and what you're reacting to when you do hit like a sweet chord or something like that, or some notes that like, you're like, oh, let me, dive into this a little bit more, but you're just kind of not thinking about it and it's whatever's flowing. So it is interesting that it actually might be more present than writing lyrics.
It's the most, in my opinion, it's one of the most authentic ways of creativity because it's spontaneous.
Sure.
And so there's no real bad note. There's no bad that, because whatever your emotion is feeling at that time, that's what you're pushing out. And really that's why it's called heart over mind, because I wasn't trying to think it through. I was just trying to feel it through. And I think that's life right there. Yeah. We're so analytical and we're always trying to figure out our problems and solve them. And sometimes you just got to let go and let God and let that natural instinct inside flow through you.
Sure.
Heart over mind. That's really what heart over mind was about. It's just about letting that natural instinct just flow through you and just letting it go. And once I finished those arrangements and let it out, I felt better. And that's really what it's about. It's about when you have that deep emotion that you can't really figure out and you're not feeling too good inside. And then you let it out.
That's beautiful, man. So, I mean, what are the plans now moving forward? We're kind of in like this weird limbo stage of the music industry where it seems like people are finally starting to get back out there and announce different tours and events and things like that. So, I mean, what's kind of your plan now that this is out and the world is beginning to open back up again?
Well, that was a one-piece project, but I'm definitely in the middle of making another album that I'm going to start releasing singles in November for. I released a band project that was under my band name Black Castle, BLBK, DVSTLE. It's called Anthem of Love. And I'm going to actually be re-releasing that under my name, Austin Brown. Okay. There was an issue with name usage and stuff like that, which I rectified. Sure. But going to be releasing more music and have a lot of production work coming out. Just was working on things that you could look out for. Have a couple songs on the Love Project, Diddy's new album.
Oh, beautiful.
That's going to be coming out. Currently in the studio with Masego, who has a great body of work that he's working on right now that I'm thankful to be a part of. Theophilus London.
Yep.
Yeah, no. Theo's got some cool stuff that we're working on right now.
Yeah.
I can't complain. It's been a lot of great work, a lot of great things coming up, and just thankful to still be present, still be doing what I love, man.
Yeah.
And getting back on the road shortly.
Beautiful, man. But what's funny though is it seems like the pandemic allowed a lot of artists to release like the most honest body of work. You know what I'm saying? That they've maybe done. I noticed it for a few people that they really took chances and released something that was completely different because they had no concern about like having to go out and promote it or even like perform it live and what it would look like amongst the rest of their catalog. They were able to just kind of be free and release something that was on their heart. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. It was the time to do it. You had no but time to grow and to create. And that's what the pandemic did. If you didn't take advantage of what you had in front of you or letting something out, it was going to be, it was a tough one. Oh, and I forgot to mention these because I know you probably know him. I have a record coming out with Tony Touch and Snoop Dogg.
Oh, wow.
That's slated to come out either before the end of this year. So watch out for
So
that. I have a collaboration project with Tony Touch called Cali York. Tony's my brother.
yeah,
He's a legend, New York legend,
of
and
course.
blessed us on the track. So excited for that to come out too.
That's dope, man. Listen, you are working, bro. So where can people find you, keep up with you, social media, all that kind of stuff?
Everything's pretty easy at Austin Brown, AustinBrown. You can go to austinbrown.com, check out Heart Over Mind, check out the Canyon Sessions EP. And then before that, my Highway 85 album. There's more music coming. Check out Black Castle, BLVKCVSTLE. And yeah, there's more coming. There's more music coming. There's more shows coming. And we're just getting started. So, and thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my dude. Anytime, man. I'm looking forward to all that you have coming out and checking out those projects, man. It's been a pleasure getting to talk with you.
Definitely, my bro.
All right, cool. Man, big thank you to my guest once again, Austin Brown. I mean, that is just like music royalty running through his bloodline, of course. I mean, let's make sure you go check out his album. It's out everywhere right now, Heart Over Mind. Definitely an incredible piece of work. Now, before we get out of here, let's, of course, end on some positivity, as we always do, in the form of a positive quote. Now, this week's quote comes to us from one of the absolute GOATs, Sonia Sotomayor. And this quote is, I think it's important to move people beyond just dreaming into doing. They have to be able to see that you are just like them and you made it. And I can't say that this has anything to do with today's show. It was an incredibly kind of dark episode, a bit at the beginning at least. But I just think that it's very much important to be an example for people, right? There are so many people who just need a little bit of an extra push, right? They just need somebody to show them that it's possible for the everyday person, just like them, to make their dreams come true. And that's something I strive to do with all of the content that I put out there in this world, and why I try to be as transparent as humanly possible when it comes to my life and my feelings and all that I've gone through to get this far. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody who is sitting at home right now with some sort of dream, some sort of goal that you want to achieve, the first step is just taking some sort of action. And once you take action, you'll just continue on moving. You just have to get yourself into that experience of actually moving towards it, and things will start to become much, much easier and start getting yourself that much closer to, man, the life that you're dreaming of. Take it from me. That's all I needed to do was get started. And I'm blessed that I had some people who inspired me along the way to keep moving. And hopefully I can do the same for other people out there who have big dreams and big goals. Now, with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning into another episode. I will catch you next week. Until then, stay safe. Don't eat too much damn candy. And I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.